Welcome to Nature's CSI, Creepy Stories of Invasion. I'm Dr. Tom Stolgren. This is the story of Guam and how uninvited snakes and bugs changed an island. Guam is a beautiful paradise in the South Pacific, 48 kilometers long, 11 kilometers wide, and it was once filled with beautiful birds singing away. Sandy beaches, a beautiful spot. This is the story of the invasion of Guam, starting with the Chamorro people around 1500 BC. Magellan stopped there 3,000 years later on his tour around the world and was later claimed by the Spanish in 1565. Guam was also visited by Jesuit missionaries, and by 1668, the native peoples were planting corn, raising cattle, moving a few forests aside, and disease and fighting had reduced the Chamorro people from 12,000 down to 5,000. Scientists, villagers, whalers from Russia, France, and England all visited the island between 1817 and 1828, and it finally became a U.S. territory in 1898. The island was invaded a few times more, first by the Japanese in World War II, and then shortly afterwards by the American soldiers in World War II. But the biggest invasion of all came on a cargo ship in 1950. The brown tree snake arrived. Whoa, before 1950, there were 25 bird species, including 18 native bird species with booming populations on the island. They had survived hunting, World War II, DDT, and forest clearing. Since 1950, 12 native bird species have been extirpated. They're gone from the island. 8 others have declined by 90% or more. 2 others are severely reduced. Those birds were not used to seeing a major predator like the brown tree snake on the island. I know what you're thinking. It's like a horror movie. Courageous teams of researchers, many from the U.S. Geological Survey and other agencies, began to tackle the problem. But the problem soon became bigger than they had imagined. These things were reproducing like crazy. So what happened? Well, there were the birds and the snakes in the same trees, the same fruit trees, and then the snakes ate the birds. It's as simple as that. When the birds were gone, the snakes started going after invasive geckos and rats and any other food sources they could find on the island. After that, something amazing happened. With the birds gone and the geckos gone and lots of rats, spider populations increased 40 times higher than they are on other islands. That's really an effect on the food chain. These snakes also caused power outages. They would stretch across wires and zoom, the power would go out on Guam. And as the population of snakes increased, so did the power outages. But then after the birds were gone, well, and after the rats and some other things had declined, the snake populations dropped, and so did the power outages on Guam. But the snakes started looking for food in other areas, including close to humans. And sometimes they got a little too close. Ooh, that gives me the shivers. So the scientists started testing different kinds of traps and baits to get those snakes out of there. And they even tried snake sniffing dogs to find those snakes, but they were nocturnal, and so they came out at nighttime and they were living in the trees. They were hard to find. As a last resort in a small area of the island, scientists thought they would give some mice some Tylenol, a very small amount of a painkiller that was deadly to the snakes. So they would drop the mice out on little ribbons that would get stuck in the canopy. The snakes would eat the mice and then die. The hope was that the populations would decline quickly, and they did in that area. In fact, so quickly that the Guam rail, a native species of bird, was able to become reestablished a few years ago. There's hope someday that the Marianas group dove and some of the other major birds could return if we can keep those snake populations low. There are other dangers on Guam, including dangers to my favorite trees, palm trees. Now, these came in the form of uninvited bugs, the coconut rhinoceros beetle and the red palm weevil. A mayor in one of the local towns is offering a 25-cent bounty for any beetle caught dead or alive. But scientists are also working on pheromone traps to bait these bugs in and to get rid of them that way. But these bugs are clever. They hide out under the soil in other life forms, grubs, and they can hide there for some time, making it difficult for scientists to find them. But they better try because the trees that are invaded by the beetles or the weevils are less resilient to cyclones and other storms, and those happen all the time. There's another new invader on Guam, the little red fire ant. Now it's only a 16th of an inch long, but it forages for proteins and fats in homes, has painful stings for humans and pets. It attacks honeybee hives, fruits, vegetable crops, palm trees, orchids, ground nesting birds, and beneficial insects, and it's very expensive to eradicate. One queen can just move a few meters away and create a new colony. And you could have multiple colonies attack a house or a palm tree or an agricultural land. And now we've heard recently that it's spread to Hawaii, where it's having some major impacts on some of the cash crops. Check out this website, this creepy little story on the little fire ant in Hawaii. The video link is down below. One more insect I'll tell you about is the Asian cycad scale, another very tiny bug that also attacks palm trees. It was very tiny on the island in a very small spot in October 2003, and in 2.5 years it seemed to cover the island. The reason it spreads around so quickly is because we spread palm trees. We trade palm trees commercially. And when we trade them, sell them across the world, we also spread invasive insects and some diseases. And so this is one way for these things to move around. In fact, you can go online and order one. Oh my gosh. So when you're ordering things from other countries, you don't know if they're going to contain a little bug or a little ant that might cause a lot of problems where you live. So let's be careful. Let's take it upon ourselves to be extremely cautious about ordering plants or animals from around the globe. Hey, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us on Nature's CSI, Creepy Stories of Invasion. If you have a story for an upcoming episode, shoot me an email, take a look at our websites, and in the meantime, get out there and save the world. Thanks.